Hey folks, Joe Sylvia here. The quick note from Bank Regulatory Land. Some recent news, Crypto.com received conditional approval for its trust bank charter with the OCC, so National Trust Bank Charter. Conditional approval is important because it is a big milestone for any of these digital asset institutions looking to form their own trust institutions, trust banks, through the OCC chartering process. So the OCC has a very long uh, specific process outlined in their chartering licensing manual that talks about things like a conditional approval as a first major milestone. And what that does is really moves them from the basic application component to a place where they're now moving into a formal or more formal organization phase. Um, the reporting has been interesting around crypto.com. There's certainly some of the more traditional financial institutions that are not interested in watching crypto or digital asset companies obtain trust charters, coming from traditional finance and bank regulation, bank M&A practice, and now kind of living at the intersection with fintech and digital assets. I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as an opportunity for competition, which I think is a good thing overall. But it's also important to remember that just because a crypto.com or Coinbase or whoever else is in the application queue for a national trust bank, just because they receive that national trust charter does not mean that they have the ability to conduct all of the same kinds of activities, offer the same products and services as a full scope banking institution or depository institution here in the United States. Really, for them, their focus is on things like asset custody and crypto custody. But they're not taking deposits, they're not making loans. So traditional finance is still, you know, well in hand. But again, it's important because it does continue to demonstrate the OCC and this administration's interest in expanding the scope of permissible charters, and in some cases, expanding the scope of what they view as our permissible activities that were already permissible. But we've seen OCC interpretive letters over the last few years that have identified certain areas of crypto asset activity that are permissible for national banks and certainly permissible for national trust banks. Anyway, just a quick story here, and you know, I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on this on an upcoming episode of the podcast, the Money and Banking Law podcast with Joe Sylvia. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts, but I'm going to focus on a little bit of the background information on the chartering, and then specifically what happens after you get the conditional approval for a charter. What are the expectations, and what's the organizational piece of it really look like in terms of that phase of the application, and then moving towards obtaining final adoption of the approval. So with that, I'll jump off today. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.